I greet you all in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. So today we'll be discussing the book, as we have been also discussing the book of Patriarchs and Prophets in the Old. So we are focusing on chapter 2, which is entitled The Creation. So I invite you to sit back, relax, as we enjoy and explore together what God has stored for us, and as He explained to us what happened on the creation. So chapter 2 is based on Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. And the first paragraph, I'll read it in your hearing. It says that by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. He spake, and it was. He commanded, and it stood fast. He laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever. 2 verses, Psalms 33, 6, 9, and Psalms 104, verse 5. So there's something interesting about the first paragraph, is that word became life. Word spoke things into creation. My mind is quickly taken to people. As humans, as we try to make things, we can never create. We can make, we can design, we can make things. That's why whatever we design, be it a car, be it a ball, it's a make of something that we have done. We can never create. But now the fascinating God about creation is that He created from nothing. There wasn't anything where like it's a byproduct of something. He took wood and then he shaped what. No, he spoke and it was formed. So let's go down to chapter 2. I think the first paragraph is just to give us a summary of what we are going to be discussing as we go further. Now, chapter 2, it gives us an introduction that as the earth came forth from his hand, from its maker, it was exceedingly beautiful. So now chapter 2, paragraph 2, is talking now about how the earth was beautiful before sin. To an extent that if you go to the last paragraph, it describes how the angels stood in awe when they view what God had done, what God had created. It says here, the angelic host viewed the scene with delight, right? That's my name, and rejoiced at the wonderful works of God. So these are angels. They actually stood and they rejoiced because of what God had done. So if you dive in now in the paragraph 2, it says, there are some landscapes that we have. I think in my country, we have those balancing rocks, right? Tomorrow we are very happy, we are very fascinated. How are they balancing? And it's actually beauty to us. But now I'm trying to imagine, using my sinful mind, that paragraph 2 is actually saying, at the time of creation, that wasn't beauty. There are some sharp rocks that we have on earth right now, my cliffs are and we take them as beauty. However, they are structured, what? But paragraph 2 is saying that was not beauty. It's because of sin. But then, and the earth was formed, it was round, and all those sharp edges, the mountains, the rocks which are sharp, they were covered with vegetation, and it was graceful and to the eye. There were no deserts. If you are going to see how much the earth is growing into a desert now, you'll be worried. But then there weren't deserts. There were no swamps. It was all beautiful. And then allow me to go to paragraph 3. It says, after the earth with its teeming animal and vegetable life had been called into existence, man, the crowning work of the Creator, and the one for whom the beautiful earth had been fitted up. So now we see that God appears as to design, muti, makomo, zizi, madamu, now the epic, which was the epic of creation, was man, was you and me in Adam. So he says now, all creation, if you go to chapter 3, says, all creation was done that he can also live in the earth. So Anzumari, he took time and then he made man into his likeness. So before we go to that part, allow me to go to this part. We say, let us make man in our own image. So a question arises, who was God speaking to. If you go back to Genesis chapter 1, it says the Spirit of the Lord was hovering above the waters of the earth. Number one, so we have the proof of the existence of the Spirit of God in its creation. Number two, if you go with me to John chapter 1, it gives you that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Verse 14, the Word became flesh, and it what? It dwelt among us. So which word now was in the beginning was the word of Creator? And which word now lived with us? It was Jesus Christ. So this conversation was done among us, the Godhead. Let us create men in our own image. So in as much as we look to ourselves in the mirror, let us know to discuss, let us create men in our own image. So the question rises now, there's some things that I don't like. So is God like me? Does he have a nose? Is God like me? So according to my research, I've been asking these questions. So the likeness now, it was the holiness of God. If you're going to go at Adam he was created with the holiness of God. He didn't know what is sin. He didn't know what was good and what was bad. He was just created holy, perfect as he was. And then the righteousness of God was covering. So that's now the image of God. That was partly human, but the divinity, that's the image, that was the express image of God. So paragraph 2 now, it's giving us kuti munhu akasikwa naMwari. And now it's giving us kuti pakazoita genealogy vanhu vachita zvakazoitika. See, the greatest thing that we should know is that man was created by God. Munhu haana kubva kuma apes as the Marxism theories that we have today, what the Patriarchs, I don't know even no, but we should know that we are an express image of God. So as you go to paragraph, the next paragraph, it says, he was placed as God's representative over the lower orders of being. So that means man was given dominion over Zimukazi says. So that's why you see even kana muka, some animals, they anovunduka, right? But because of sin, you shall see also some animals now they can even attack man. That is because of sin. But at first, when everything was divine, was designed perfect, created by God, man had dominion over animals. He was made to be a representative of God, over all lower orders of beings. So as we go on to the last part of this paragraph, it says, thou hast put all things under his feet. So now David is asking God, why is that you love men? What has he done? Or who is man that you should love him so much? But you have put him under, given him dominion over all things, the beast of the field of the air, that you might love him so much. So sometimes people will need motivation talks from people. So sometimes when you're low, when you have low self-esteem, I think this is where we should find our esteem in Christ, knowing that God created us in his image, and he gave us dominion, and we are the representatives of God here on earth. So we move on to the next paragraph. I think it's 45.1. Yeah, 45.1. So this is where I end. Thank you. If you have any comments, you guys, you can add. With comment.
Well, yeah, I have a comment. That was really lovely. That was really beautiful. I think just knowing that God is a creator really puts things to perspective and really makes us to know the origin. Like, these are our origins. And I think many a times we go around in life not knowing what's the purpose of my life. I think the reason is because if we don't know where we came from, it's very difficult for us to know our purpose. And we came from God. I like the paragraph, on part of the paragraphs that Delay commented on. I like the line that talks about how we are worthy. It says that when he came to crown his glorious work, to place one in the midst, to stand as a ruler of the fair earth, he did not create He did not fail to create a being worthy of the hand that gave him life. So I am a being that is worthy of God giving life to me. I think if we rule out God from our lives, then we become beings that are not worthy. That's why people will then suffer mental health issues, easily fall into depression. And suicide tendencies are very easy because it's really easy for people to believe, what's my life worth? I'm worth nothing. It's better for me to die. The world would be a better place. But I want to tell everyone out there that you have worth, you have meaning. Just by your mere existence, you have worth. Just by being created by God, that means the world. Saka, your worth doesn't come from Basarako. Are you a doctor? Are you a sweeper? Are you a cook? Whatever you are, your worth is not coming from what you do or from accolades or from trophies. Our worth comes from God, guys. God created us. And I just love that statement. That line speaks volumes to me. We are a being worthy of the hand that gave us life. Wow. To me, that's just mind blowing. And being made in the likeness, in the image of God, to me also means that the abilities that God has, even though they're in a minute kind of form, they are also given to me. Who else is creative in the universe? It's God. So he made me like him in that I have an intelligence, a creativeness. I have an ability to understand and grasp spiritual things, and he is a spiritual being. So a lot of the capacities that human beings have that animals don't have are then what God has made us. Not meaning, some people think being made in the image of God just means that we're intelligent beings and that animals are not intelligent beings. I have a question mark there because I think animals are intelligent beings. They think, they do a lot of things. And this is why even in Proverbs 30, we hear Solomon saying, there are 4 things that are wise upon this earth. And he mentions the ant and the spider and the locust and the coney. So that means animals are wise and we can learn from animals. But what animals can't do is they can't connect to God. And it was mentioned in one of the paragraphs that we can be able to comprehend the sovereignty of God. So my last point to this edition is that most of us might not want to regard creation. And sometimes it's because we are afraid of regarding that there's another supreme being who reigns over our lives. But if we want to struggle and be the supreme being in our lives, we'll always be disappointed because we cannot take charge of our own lives. Only God can. If we surrender, surely God is supreme and he's sovereign and he can guide us into even a more fulfilling life. So yeah, that's my addition.
Okay. I was touched in the album, the extent to which sin destroyed the original creation. When it is said, there were no deserts, there were not some swamps of barren desert. Then Chikar Samanje, my deserts are exist now. Yeah, Kalahari Desert, Sahara Desert, and how big they are. I don't know. See, Munupa was say. Then what you forgot all that space, that all that land was covered, but now it is barren because of sin. Then name what so that we can really appreciate the effort that he has put to reconcile the world. Because if sin can destroy to that extent, how much more his wrath when he's now destroying sin. Pane imwe pfungwa yandaona kutiko our God is the God of order when it comes to the issue of doing his thing. Creation, he created something that the crowning of his creation was going to use. Instead of creating men first, he created paanokwanisa kugara pachona nezvaachada kushandisa then akazocrowna nemunhu achazoshandisa zvinhu zvachona. And yeah, the same order is expected us as vanhu vari kurarama panyika. Follow our God who is God of order. I think that's all.
Man, thank you, Brunson. So we can go to the next paragraphs, which is 45.2 to 46.2. Unless if anyone else wants to say something. Melodion, did you want to say something before we move to the next paragraph?
Not really, no, but I'm fascinated, at just how much the Creator loves us as mankind. He created us as the paragraph mentions, is his crowning creation after all was done. The earth created in all its splendor, in all its beauty, and all that just for men, for our own enjoyment. And I do second what Bronson has mentioned, the terrible effects of sin. I imagine now these large expanses of land that are now deserts, and we are overpopulated in these very few areas that can still accommodate us, and God help us that we may appreciate all that was done for us. And I want to go back to what Let mentioned about creation. The very first paragraph talks about how the earth was formed. We have got so many theories going around nowadays, people trying to disprove creation, trying to take the Creator out of his own creation. It's a fallacy. Now, nature is there to show us without doubt that there is a Creator, that there was an intelligent designer behind what we see. It's said that mankind, God's own creation, mankind, God's crowning jewel, is the only component in his creation that can comprehend him, but at the same time can choose to go against his will and try to disprove his existence. Now, God help us that we may be able to save him, and realize as well that we are his workmanship. The scripture says later on that we are his workmanship. Whether we live or die, we are his. And my contribution here was it's only an appreciation of the creation work and why it was done, and our worth in him, because we are his creation. And that's what I'll say.
Over to you, Kuda, 45.2 to 46.2.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, the story continues, and Mwari vachinge vasika munhu vakamuisa in the Garden of Eden. Yeah, this statement man was to be a God's image, both in outward resemblance and in character. I see there's an issue there. Mwari vachisika munhu, indeed. And chapter 1 verse 26 Genesis. Let us make men in our own likeness. So Panapa, the statement is saying we have to bear his image, both in outward resemblance and in character. Before you say anything, people should see God. The way you present yourself, the way you carry yourself out there, people should see God in you. The challenge that I've seen with nowadays people ndeyekutiko vanoda kutsanangura kuti anzwisisiwo kwanzi ainini ndiri munhu waMwari, don't follow what you see. You should just understand kuti inini I have been created in the image of God, and I'm His creation, but there is nothing pauri chinotaridza kuti wakasikwa naMwari and doing what you have been created for. So anapa pari kubuda pfungwa yekutiko pacreation, when Adam was created, his nature was in harmony with the will of God. His mind was capable of comprehending divine things. The same is expected of us, the seed of Adam. Kutiko, what we think, what we do, whatever we do, even our nature, must be in harmony with the will of God. Unfortunately, sin has come in and has destroyed that original nature which God had created. But still, it is expected of us, since in the book of Matthew, it is said, "Be thou perfect as your Father in heaven is also what is also perfect." So, yeah, that's the most challenging thing, and that's the most interesting thing at the same time. Because everything, his nature and his mind was in harmony, and could comprehend zvinodikanwa mwana Mwari nezvaasingadi. Yeah, his affections were pure, his appetite, passions under the control of reason. He was wholly and happy in bearing the image of God and perfect obedience to his will. This first paragraph here, chapter 45.2, I just decided to go through every statement because it is pregnant of thoughts, no matter each and every part of our lives. Pamazuva atiri kurarama panapa, Mwari vachisika Adam, his purpose haina kudzimika nekuda kwevi. When sin came in, the purpose of the creation of man stood, and the same zvakanga zvichitarisirwa kuna Adam zvichiri kungotarisirwawo nekwatiri isusu. Isusu, our affections must be pure, appetite and passion, and our passion zvinofana kunge zviri in line with what God wants. And then, that last statement he was wholly and happy in bearing the image of God and in perfect obedience to his will. The challenge that I've seen with most of the Christians nowadays is they are not comfortable to be called, like, let me say, they are not comfortable to be identified as vana vaMwari, especially when they are at places dzinoita sekuti hadzisi comfortable kuti vanzi vana vaMwari. But muchaona kuti iko munhu kana akanziko Yesu mufundisi, zvinogona kutorera munhu nguva kuti azvigamuchire kuti kwanzi ndanzi mufundisi. What have you seen in me? Chaita kuti uzonditi mufundisi. No one takes pride pakunzi iwe mufundisi, aneti. But tikapiwa mamwe mazita aya ane zvimaslang, we are very much comfortable. So bearing the image of God, Adam was happy in bearing the image of God. So the same must apply to us. Pamazuva ano atiri kurarama kuti iko kana ukatonzi Yesu mufundisi, you must be very happy kuti iko at least I have something chinoita kuti vanhu vaone kuti pana Mwari ari kurarama mandiri. Haisi nyaya yekuti unofanira kufamba uitaura kuti ndiri mufundisi. Vanhu vanofanira kungozvionera vega kuti you are a minister chero usina zvawataura. Pane pamwe pauti unogona kutozotaura kuti ndiri mufundisi, vanhu vakashamisika kuti mufundisi akaita sewa. So bearing the image of God inongoda kuti ngoti munhu ave nayo zvisinei kuti watsanangurira vanhu kana kuti hauna. Inofanira kungoonekwa uchingozvifambirawo, even from the way you talk and relate with others. Allow me kuita sendinotimanyi chikamu chinotevera pari kunzipo
Parikubuda pasara 8 minutes. So 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes on each paragraph. Zvingatibatsira.
All right. Then parikutaura nyaya kuti Adam na Eve when they were created vanga vasina ma-artificial garment atiri kuchinjaya mazuva ese anosviva, but vanga vakafukidzwa neutsvene hwaMwari. And panapa pari kunziko, so long as they lived in obedience to God, the robe of light, the robe of light continued to enshroud them. So deko chinhu chiva hachina kupinda izvezvi tingadei takangofuka that garment of that robe of light, yeah, which is so interesting, It's difficult to imagine how the world was going to look like with people putting on that garment, but it was going to be so interesting. I think so. It goes on to say mhuka dzakacreatewa, and they were brought to Adam to give them names, but as they were coming dzakanga dzine macompanions, but iye akanga asina. And I think kwakufunga kwangu, God did it deliberately so that paanozomupa a companion, they would appreciate and understand the importance of the companion. Deko chinzi Adam akangosikwa vakangomuka varipo vose, Adam and Eve, probably he was not going to appreciate better what the gift of a companion yaanenge apiwa, but God did it. I think God did it kuti what achange amboona how it feels to live without a companion, so that panozowana a companion he would really appreciate the importance of the companion. So I think that goes to my fellow brethren, when these people are coming into our lives, they are so important to us, because there are some of the things that we can't do that they can do, and just being with them, just that in our lives. It is not good for a man to be alone. So when God said it is not good, who are you to say it to be alone? So God did it for a purpose, and it's something that we should appreciate. Okay, I think this time ndogona kuisira kunamwe have something to add on those paragraphs. God took Eve from the rib. Yeah, honestly, I'm failing to locate it here. Right. Oh yeah, Eve was created from a rib taken from the side of Adam, signifying that he was not to control him, right, as the head, nor to be trampled under his feet as inferior, but to stand by his side as an equal, to be loved and protected by him. So this responsibility is coming. Yes, also as men. Yeah, I think these women, they've been taken as inferior part of the society. But we are equal. We are equal, and we should understand what God has said, but we are just equal, and we should love and protect them, which is very important. We should love and protect them. And as ladies, why you should not be above us, but you should appreciate. You should stand as companion. Yeah, it was For more information, you can check Ephesians chapter 5, papatonditochidzika. I don't know kana ndasirira pfungwa dzangu vachida kuti nditaure.
I just wanted to mention about the rib that I really think it's an important point that Eve was taken from Adam's rib. The side where signaling that Adam was supposed to protect her. It doesn't mean she's inferior. If God had taken her from the toes, then, he would trample under her. But God took Eve from the rib very close to the heart, meaning she's supposed to be loved. So I hope men out there with their wives, you're loving your wives as Christ loved the church. But anyway, one of the points that I really wanted to also just emphasize is that there was no one else in the world that could have been a good companion to Adam, not even an angel, right? Because an angel wouldn't be the same nature. And I grappled around with this thought, but it makes so much sense. Even now, God has appointed us sinful human beings to preach to other human beings because we are of the same nature and we understand each other. God has not sent angels. Sometimes I thought, why didn't God just send an angel to preach to us, But God sends us to ourselves. So when God sends us and God says, hey, go and preach, go and do this, we have to understand we're doing it because we are preaching to each other, because we're of the same nature. We understand our sorrows, we understand what we go through. So this is why Eve had to be made, because he wanted another of his kind to love and also to be loved.
Okay, so question. Recently, I was talking to my uncle. I graduated with my uncle. Actually, he graduated a year earlier than me.
Oh, wow.
2015, yeah, from our BSc. So like now he wants to marry, he's not working, but he's working on his father's land. He's doing farming and what. So to me, he was saying, no, Zaya, you should now get married. And I was saying to him, I'm different from you. Like Adam was first given Eden before Eve, right? So that means he had something to take care of Eve. So question now, with the times that we are living, hardly most men were at least Eden before we get to Eve. Eve is there, but the Eden is not there, right? And my uncle was saying to me, you know what, Muzai, just go on. God will provide as you go. Like time is moving on. What? No, cool. I think a man should first secure whatever he has. He should secure first, and then also try if work or tomorrow's on power. If so, that was my point. So I don't know, you guys, what do you think in life? Should just a man, Eden is not there, he doesn't have anything, he's not working, but Eve is there, but Eden is not there. So what should we do as men, as young men?
A question to the men. Answer.
I think it's not advisable. Kuti utore Eve usati waine Eden, because unenge watangira kumberi uchidzoka mashure. And the thing is, equation yacho inonetsa kuzobalanza kana ukatangira nekuansa, because in the first place, how are you going to sustain here? And how are you sustaining yourself? And chokutanga nchoti iwe unofanira kunge wakukwanisa kusustain, and so that you can be able to sustain the second person. And so secure something that can sustain both of you, then ipapo ndo patingazotaura nyaya yekuti Eve anofanira kuchinga akugarira padhuze. But as long Eden isati yavo, it's very risky. Of course, yeah. Vadhara vakudhara vedu vaimbozvitaura kuti ingotora zvinogadzirisika as you go, you build your empire muri mose, but chitarisa manje kuti that kind of an idea iri kukuvadza isusu generation yanhasi. Why? Because simba rakasvika pakunopera vadhara vedu vachiri kutraya kuestablish. Because one thing I have realized, maybe philosophy dzangu ndoga, but zvandakaona nezvokuti if you happen to get Eve before you secure Eden, zvinoitika ndezvokuti if you were now 2 steps to success, you are going to go back 10 steps backward. And for you to come back pawanga uri papapo, zvinogona kutorera imwe nguva, especially kana wanga usati wanyatso kuestablisha. So muchaona kuti iko vadhara vedu vamwe vakazotanga kuzodhiraivha mota kuma 40-50 years, asi munhu akatanga kushanda aine 20 years. Urikuona chakaitika ndechekuti paakaroora ane 20 years ndo paakafunga kutanga kutsvaga basa ipapo, and at 21 munhu angati ane first born. Saka kuti azokwanisa kubhalansisa kugadzirira first born, probably ane mamwe magaps evadhara kumashure anga asina kubhalansa, nekuzogadzira ake nekuzogadzira emwana kunosumukira kure shawa. Saka good thing, establish then give.
Okay, what do you think, Panashe? You're muted. You're muted.
Yes. What can I say? I can't add to that. It doesn't get better than that. I think Delight got his answer.
Yeah, so I honestly think that what I would not agree with is, I don't think you need to have like your life together, everything figured out, having a house and a car, then start thinking of, okay, I'm gonna get my Eve now. But I think like the message there for me is that you should be doing something, at least you should be having a trade, should be having something that can bring you income so that you're able to take care of yourself and the needs of the next person that you're gonna have in your life. Then putting an empire together is definitely a good thing, because it didn't mean Kutishoni Adam built the empire at that time, but he was given a job to do at that time. And I don't know if he even finished everything before Eve was given, because he was given a day job. Remember, it was one day, So I want to believe you should be able to do something. You should be hustling. You should be getting an income. And so it's really discouraged. If you're at school, what are you doing? What do you need a girlfriend for? If you can't spend on her, if you can't do stuff, what are you doing with a woman? Like, you have nothing to do with her. So this is why we discourage people to have relationships while they're still at school. But when you're now working, now making, that's why people start thinking, hey, women are gold diggers. It's in the Bible, guys. You have to work first, because we are high maintenance. We need to be taken care of. So yeah, if no one else has anything to say, we'll move on to the next paragraphs. And Panashe, you're taking us through the next paragraph. That's 46.3 to 47.2.
Yes, thank you. So I'm taking over from 46.3, like you said. So we've just come from the previous paragraphs where we've seen God providing a companion for Adam at this time, a companion that was meet for him, taken from his own rib. And as we continue in the next chapter, we are looking at the institution of marriage. Now, in the first paragraph, the one I'm looking at currently, God himself, he celebrated the first marriage, and he is the originator of this institution. When you check verses like Hebrews 13:4, they mention that marriage is honorable. It is one of the first gifts of God to men. It is one of two institutions that after the fall, Adam brought with him beyond the gates of paradise. So it's what we see in this chapter is that the institution of marriage is has its originator in God himself. Now, when the divine principles are recognized and obeyed in this relation, marriage is a blessing, because that is what it was meant to be. It guards the purity and happiness of the race. It provides for men's social needs. It elevates the physical, the intellectual, and the moral nature. Now, going back to this issue of marriage, now it's one of those institutions that is under attack in our society today, because people really go into these marriages the way it was planned initially in Eden. Now we've got alarming rates of divorces worldwide. We've got marriages that are rocky because the divine principles are not being followed by the members within this marriage institution. And we've got so many people trying to redefine the definition of what marriage is. But as you see in this chapter, marriage cannot be redefined, because marriage, as it is meant in the Bible, as it was meant by the Creator, is the union between one man and one wife, and the two in accordance with his divine precepts and principles. Anything else outside of this institution, outside of this arrangement, is by definition not marriage. It's something else. Now, it's one of those uncomfortable topics that we have to deal with, unfortunately, in our days now. But I think it's important for us to realize that God is a just God. Our God, we have already seen throughout the creation process and everything he did for men, that he saw that it was good. Even up to the institution of marriage, he saw that it was good for men. And when we, as his creation, follow what he has set out for us, then we can truly experience joy that is fulfilling, that is everlasting. If I'm going to go back a little bit to look at the previous paragraph, where I believe Branson mentioned that Eve was taken from from Adam's Eve, from Adam's rib, that she was taken from him. We now have people in our day now that have resorted to certain perversions, certain form of depravity, where they think they can join together themselves with members of the same sex, for example, or animals, or they can they believe in this kind of marriages, if I want to use that word, in which a person can marry themselves, for example. But we see that that isn't accordance with what God had planned for men in the Garden of Eden. And we have so many problems in our society today. Many point to the alarming rate of divorces now as a weakness in the marriage institution, or as something to discredit the institution as a whole. But I think it's important for us to realize the importance of marriage to men and to safeguard its purity and its nature. Now let's go forward. After God had blessed this union between Adam and his first wife and his wife Eve, he provided for them a garden as well inside in Eden, and there he put the man he had formed. So there's a lesson to be learned in this. God did not just create the first man and the woman and left them idle. Instead, he gave them something to do. They were active, they were working, they were not idle minds. It's a lesson for us today that we are made in his image, true. We are made for companionship with one another in a holy matrimony, true, but we are also people who are created to be working people. We are not created to be idle. Some say idle minds are the devil's workshop. And we see in this chapter, even in the beginning, God gave them something to do. He gave them a garden, beautiful as it was Eden. Its splendor and glory. He provided a garden within it, especially for them, that they may look up at it, they may dress it up, they may work in it, and it was the work of Adam. If we read the chapter here, and Eve to train the branches of the vine to form bowers, thus making for themselves a dwelling from living trees covered with foliage and fruit. There were fragrant flowers of every hue in a rich profusion. In the midst of the garden stood the tree of life, surpassing in glory all other trees. Its fruit appeared like apples of gold and silver and had the power to perpetuate life. Within the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, they were active, working and dressing the fields, and they did not have to build these mansions that we're building today for ourselves for an habitation. They were covered under a foliage of leaves. And we see the beauty of Eden and the garden that they were given there. I've already mentioned the fact that they were not idle. They were given something to do, and it's a lesson for us today to not be idle, to work for our providence. The creation was now complete. That's the next chapter. After the completion of creation, it meant that the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the also and God saw that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And Eden bloomed on earth. Adam and Eve had free access to the tree of life, which I just mentioned before, which is the most majestic tree within the Garden of Eden, the tree of life with the power to perpetuate life. I often wonder if they'd continued to eat from the tree of life, they would never experienced death in any form of way. In Job 38:7, as reference, it means that the morning stars sing together and all the sons of God shouted for joy because the creation was complete. It was majestic to behold, even for the angelic beings that saw this creation work done. And we see in this creation of Eden and his blessing of the institution of marriage, and the gift of work, so we really need not to be idle. Don't sit on your hands. Use the abilities that God gave you, because to each and every one of us, He has given an ability to work, and that we may be fruitful in what we do. And I don't have much to say from this chapter, because I believe this is where I end. But we see really the goodness of our Creator in His creation, and that He put in place for our joy and fulfillment. And I'm going to open the platform now for contributions, questions, any additions or subtractions.